everybody, welcome back to Think Outside the Board. I'm your host Brian Toohey, and today I'm bringing you a first impressions video for Rococo Deluxe Edition. Now normally I do these first impressions videos just for games that are brand new. They've either had their Kickstarter just delivered or they're just brand new to retail. I'm bucking that a little bit since the channel is still in its infancy and there are a few games that kind of came in at the end of last year that I want to get some of these videos done for because I think they really deserve it. And one of those is Rococo, even though it's a reprint. I do like the game, I like it a lot, and I think it will probably get a full teach and play before too long. But just so you know that these first impressions videos are not intended to be full teaches and reviews. It's just a video where I show you a little bit about how the game works mechanically and kind of what's involved and how the game looks. Hopefully a quick video with just enough information to give you an idea if this is going to be a game that's right for you. So let me take you over to the table with the board and I'll kind of go over some mechanics and how it plays, and then I'll come back here and tell you what I think about the game after my one and only play so far. Okay, now before I show you the board, I wanted to show you the player area, which is right here. Everybody has this little kind of player board. It's very kind of custom shaped and got a lot of iconography on it. If you don't know the game that well yet, this may be a little confusing, but once you learn the game, the iconography on here will be very clear. Now you're going to play this game over a series of rounds, and it's actually got the phases of each round written on this player board in iconography, so it makes it very easy to kind of follow along once you already know everything. I'm just going to kind of go over it very generally, but the first phase will be these kind of four things, and each of them is it's just refreshing a certain area of the board. So you're going to be refreshing the first player marker, the employee cards, the dress components, and the dress patterns. So that's all that'll happen in the first round. In the second round, you're going to pick out your cards. In the third round, you'll play your cards to take actions. And then in the fourth round, you'll get income. And this will kind of just keep going over and over until endgame conditions are met. Now, Rococo is a deck construction game. I wouldn't call it a deck building game. And the difference in that distinction, I think, is what makes Rococo so interesting. And you're going to start out with 5 cards. And as you can see, they all have a little mark for my player color. So if you're purple, you're going to get these purple starting cards, but all player colors start with the same cards, basically. So you're going to get 2 masters, because there's 3 different kinds of employees. You'll start with 2 masters, a journeyman, and an apprentice. And there are different things that they can do. So the masters basically can do everything, and there are 6 different actions. The journeyman can do everything except hire new employees, and then the apprentices can only take half of the actions. So we'll go over these actions in a minute. So as most deck building games go, you're going to have a draw pile and a discard pile, and you will just get the cards that you draw each round. The thing that makes Rococo so cool is that you're going to get to look through all of the cards in your draw pile and select 3 cards that you want to use, and then you'll put the rest of the cards back. So you are actively getting to choose which 3 cards you're going to be using every single round. And they won't cycle back into your draw pile until, they've all gone to your discard pile. So for instance, when I finish this round, these cards will go away, and then I'll have to choose from these. But as I get more new cards, they'll go directly into my hand, and I'll be able to use them that round. And then for the next round, I'll be able to choose from whatever's left. Once I've used all my cards, though, the discard will go back to the draw pile, and then I'll again get to choose any 3 cards from this. So it's not a case where I can use the same 3 cards every round, because they will go over here and they will be gone until I've, completely exhausted the draw pile. But unlike most deck builders, I will get to choose every round from here the 3 specific cards that I'm playing for the round. And there's a large amount of agency in that, and the player getting to make that selection every single round. And that's why we class this mechanic in Rococo as deck construction, but not deck building. But I love it. It's a great mechanic. It works really, really well in this game. I've kind of showed you the player board here. There's also, they've got these little player trays. And so when you're getting these kinds of components over here, you can just slot them in here so that no one else can see. And also, this new deluxe version has lace and spools of thread that are just very well designed. I really like these components. And this version also comes with these nicely made metal coins. And then on top of that, you're going to have these player tokens that you're going to be using every time you make dresses and put them on the board or fun decorations. And they're like these screen printed little wooden tokens, and they're really nice. And one of these you'll be using for your player score marker around the side of the board. Now I wanted to show you that before I showed you the board, but now that we've done that, I'm going to sort of slide everything down and then show you the board and the setup for the board. Okay, so this is the board for Rococo. And essentially what you're doing in Rococo is you are designing dresses for nobles at the court of King Louis XIV for this fireworks celebration that's happening. And as I said, there's some deck construction. You saw how that works. And you're mainly going to be concerned with getting employees over here, getting dress components here, getting dress patterns here, and then when you complete a dress, you will either cash it in for money if you're kind of poor and you need more money to be able to do more things, or you will be dressing people and placing them in these 5 rooms, and then at the end of the game they will score points, and there's kind of an area majority thing going on in each of the 5 rooms. And then there's also another mechanic going on here where you've got these multipliers up here with the fireworks, and if you sort of reserve these different spaces, which are the most expensive decorations in the game, generally, except for a few of these. But if you reserve these spaces, then at the end of the game, after you score the area majority for these other 5 rooms, you will be able to promote certain people wearing dresses up to the balcony up here, to the roof, where they can watch fireworks and then score you additional points with these multipliers. So big points there. So there are kind of multiple ways you're going to score points in this game, and I'm going to briefly go over them and briefly go over the player actions and how things work. If I am playing my master, I can play this master to hire one of my employees. And whenever you play a card like this, you also get to do the bonus action on it. This master, for example, this is your starting master, it has a big X, so it has no additional action. And this other starting master is the same way. But if you're playing, say, this journeyman to do an action, you can also get to do his bonus action when you play him. So he'll get to do one of the 5 actions that he can do, which again, he can't do this hire employee action, but he can do anything else. So you'll get to do that action when you play him. And then you'll get to do his bonus action, which is that you'll get to pay him 1 money to take either a lace or a spool of thread from the supply. Okay, so there are 6 types of actions in the game that a player can do. Only the Master card, which is the gold thimble cards, can hire employees. Now, when you do that, you're going to go over to this area. You're going to pick the employee that you want. If it's filled with employees, you're going to pay 5 money. And if it gets down to the point where there's only 1 employee left, you get that employee for free. And this iconography is consistent. It also shows up over here in the resources. The little red arrows here mean that anything that's on these spaces will go away and get replaced at the end of the round, which means that employees never stick around from round to round. Now, there are 2 actions that the journeyman can do that the apprentices cannot do. One of those actions is to make a dress. And now when you make a dress, you're going to go over here. You are going to pay the amount of money that shows on this beneath the tile. So for instance, if I wanted to take this green dress here, I am just paying 1 money to do it, but I have to have the resources shown on the tile when I take it. So I need 2 pieces of green material and I need a spool. And I will have gotten that previously by taking these. And I have to have those in my inventory. I will immediately discard them. And then I will either get 16 money for the dress, or I will get to take 3 victory points and then flip this person over, place them anywhere in these 5 rooms, and the way they fit in, it's just so well designed. And then I'll take one of my player tokens and I'll place it on this tile so that we know that this is my tile. And now I have presence in this room. And you can probably tell that if I place this tile over something like this money or a resources tile here, I will then get to take that bonus, either the money from the supply or the tile from what's shown here. And again, whenever I take these tiles, this is a resource tile. I just take the tile and I either immediately get the lace and the spool. That's what I would get for this one because it has both with a plus on it. Or I get to put it in my little tray, and then later on I will have the blue fabric when I need it. Now, if I have a tile like this that has a gold spool on it, it means that only a master could make this dress. Similarly, there are going to be certain gold tiles on certain spots, and that means that only a master, only a dress designed by a master can be placed in that spot. Now, that doesn't mean that this tile also has to have a gold thimble on it. It just means that only a master can make this tile, and only a master can place that tile in that spot. And the other action that the journeyman can do is claim the queen's favor, which is basically a first player marker. Someone will have this first player marker during the current round, but if a player goes to take the queen's favor marker, they will take this tile, which will kind of remind everyone that at the end of the round, they're going to inherit the first player marker. And when they do, this will go back for someone to potentially take the following round. Now, this will also give you 5 money for income, unless you have it at the end of the game, in which case it'll score you 3 victory points. And then there are 3 actions that anyone can do, including the apprentices. One of them is to take these resource tiles up here. And as we said, it has similar iconography over to the employees, where if a drawer is full of materials here, you're going to pay 2 money for it. And it'll decrease to the point where if there's only 1 tile left, you'll be able to take that for free. And when you take one of these tiles, you are either going to take the lace and or thread shown on it and immediately just discard this tile and add those items to your personal supply. In this case, because it has a plus, you would get to take a lace and a spool of thread. In some cases, there's a division sign, so you get to take one or the other. Now, if you don't want the resources, if you want the actual dress fabric, then you take this tile and you place it in your little player tray so that no one else can see the kinds of fabric that you have. And then you will hopefully will have it in your personal supply when you later go to buy a dress that you need. So there's 2 other types of actions left. The 5th action here is funding the decorations that are around the board. Some of them just score pure points. So for instance, if you go here, then at the end of the game, you're going to get 3 points. If you go here, you're going to get 2 points. Other decorations like these 2 will actually score you income every round, which means that this is probably where you're going to go first. And if you get there before other players, you're probably going to take the one that's cheapest, that's only 6 money. If you are playing, let's say, a 5-player game and you're here third, you're going to take the third most cheapest one or the most expensive, which is 10 money, which means if you get here 4th and 5th, you are just crap out of luck. But what this will do is this will give you 1 money every round for any decorations that you have. So the moment that you've placed the decoration here, that means you're going to get 1 money every round. Now over here on this side, you're going to get 1 money for each color of dress that you have built out somewhere on the board. So you can get up to 4 money a round from that. The statues here and the decorations that are connected to the statues are for endgame scoring. So if you've gone the most expensive route that costs 30 or 28 money, the multiplier you're using here will be 2. If you're going the cheaper ones, maybe you got there later, the multiplier will be 1. But essentially what they will do is they will score you that multiplier times the different colored dresses that you have built around the board, which means that you can have up to 4. So there are 4 different colors of dresses, right? So if I had all 4 colors of dresses and I had this decoration, I'm going to get 2 times 4, which is 8 points. And that'll be at the end of the game. If I have more than 1 of each kind, so let's say I have 2 of each kind out here on the board, then I would need to buy a second decoration here if I wanted to score that at the end of the game for endgame scoring. So as you tend to get more sets of 4 around the board, you may consider getting more and more of these multipliers. You also will score area majority. So at the end of the game, whoever has the most dresses in any area will get the area majority points shown around the board. And this will also kind of be a second place if you're playing with, 3 to 5 players. You're going to have a second place for the area majority there as well. This is where the king is, so this is the biggest one. And then if you've paid these big amounts up here, at the end of the game, you will be able to choose one of your dresses after the other areas have been scored, move them up here, and they'll score a multiplier as well for that dress. So these are big points at the end of the game. And then finally, there are these other decorations over here. And in order to get these bonus points, as you can see from all the little check marks, you already need to have a dress in every one of the 5 rooms. So once you've already done that, you can then claim one of these spots here for even more endgame points. Now I've left out the 6th action. The 6th action is basically quitting. So all of the employees you'll see have a money amount in their left-hand lower corner. So one of the actions that you can take on your turn is to get rid of that employee, in which case you would just sort of quit with them. You would get the money shown on the bottom, and you also will get to still do their action one last time. So for instance, if I got tired of this apprentice and I had this apprentice quit, I would get 4 money for them quitting, and I'd also get 2 money because that is his action. Now, the one thing that you don't want to do, you don't want to fire all of your masters because your masters are the only ones that can hire new employees. So if somehow you were to have all of your gold thimble MasterCards quit and leave the game, you could back yourself into a corner where you cannot acquire any more new employees. But anyway, those are the 6 actions of the game, and I've already kind of touched on the area majority scoring at the end, and the scoring up here with the multipliers and the scorings here for different sets of things around the board, as well as the bonus scoring that you get over here after you've already built a dress in every room. Now the game will end after the 7th round, after the players collect income during that 7th round, and then final scoring will happen, and it'll be based on all these kind of area majority things. So essentially what you've got here is you've got a game that uses deck construction in a very kind of unique way, and you're going to be kind of biding your time between getting new employees, resources, and then building dresses. And that's kind of it's a resource game, it's a resource management game, and it's all about kind of efficiency of actions and how you chain your cards together and use the bonus actions with the actions that you're taking. And then you're trying to get these dresses completed. You can turn them in for money if you need to mid-game because you're really low on cash and you can't do anything else until you get more cash. But you're going to try to not do that because you're going to want to get those dresses out here for all of that endgame area majority scoring. And it's kind of a unique theme, making dresses in the court of Louis XIV, although there are other games out there that are kind of fashion related or involve dressmaking. Another game is Pret-a-Porter, which I also like, although I think this game is better. And this game has, as you can see, just kind of amazing artwork by Ian O'Toole, who is probably my favorite board game artist working today. And he just always does great work, and he's able to tie together the kind of theme of the game and the mechanics in such a way that it makes so much sense, and it's so thematic that as you learn the game and continue to play the game and get better and better at the game, you will continually kind of be having these aha moments where you're like, aha, and it makes complete sense that, I'm doing this thing to achieve this mechanic, and this theme. There'll be all these kind of things that'll go off, and you'll be like, that's so cool that works that way. Also over here at the top of the board, they've got just kind of all the different types of endgame scoring. So at the very end of the game, you can kind of just go over there and do each of the things and process the points for that at the end of the game. But this is Rococo. This is what it looks like. This is how it plays as quickly as I could do it. And it's a really good game, and it's a gorgeously produced version of this game. All right, welcome back. Now, I really, really like Rococo, and it definitely qualifies as a medium-heavy game, so it's not something you maybe want to do if you're just experiencing the world of board games, but I think it's a great game, especially if you're kind of getting your feet wetter, and kind of, slowly getting used to playing heavier games. In fact, if you've heard about Vital Lacerda games and you've been a little intimidated, this is a game that might be a good sort of pre-step on the way to playing those games. It's very similar. It's got the same kind of production value from Eagle Griffin Games. It's just a beautiful box, great insert, really, really nice components. And it's also got art by Ian O'Toole, who does pretty much all of the art for Vital Lacerda's games. Now, one of the things that I really like about Rococo is that deck construction and the fact that it's not a pure deck builder. You're not getting kind of just the luck of the draw every single time you draw cards, but you're getting to actually pick those 3 cards that you use for each round. I also like the fact that there's just a bunch of kind of different mechanics on the board. You've got the new employees, you've got the resources, you've got the dresses, and you're trying to put all those things together to eventually get dresses out on the board for area majority scoring at the end of the game. But there's enough stuff going on that usually, even when the people that you're playing with do things that kind of get in your way and muck you up, there's ways that you can kind of change tacks and do something else. And I always like games when they give you like lots of things to do and lots of ways to do them. And then it's sort of up to you about how you're going to balance that out, both with what you're trying to do and with what other players do during the game. So a good game, in my mind, with kind of like all these different things happening, allows you to make adjustments during the game and during the gameplay as things maybe aren't quite going your way, or sort of like a blockade goes up in the way of something that you want to do. You can kind of shift tactics at that time and say, okay, well, I'm going to come back to that later, but for now I'm going to pursue this. And I really like games that allow you to do that rather than games that sort of kind of get you stuck in the corner. I think another element to this game is the fact that you can turn in your dresses not only for endgame points, but for money. That's something I find similar to certain economic games, including train games like Railways to the World of Age of Steam, where sometimes you have to do things to kind of bolster your economic situation. A lot of those train games and economic games have you taking loans, and if you take them early on and you kind of build up your finances, you don't have to do it later in the game, and you can kind of set yourself up. But I like it when games have that kind of oh shit button, that if things go really bad, they allow you to sort of save yourself. And that in Rococo is the ability to not make a dress and set it up for endgame points, but to turn it in just for money. So if you're in a situation in the game where you're just in a really tight spot, you have no money to do anything, you can always make a dress, turn it in for money, and then you'll get yourself in a better financial situation, and you can kind of then go back to plan A. I also like all the different kind of area majority scorings going on. There's that, the decorations that will give you income early in the game in terms of money for decorations or money for dresses. So you can get more income coming in as you play. And then you've got 5 different rooms. So if one room, kind of gets a little bit beyond you with other players going after the area majority, again, you can kind of shift tactics and go for other rooms and concentrate more on those. There's also the ornaments that you've got that will score you points if you get one dress in every room. So that sort of motivates players to at least get one dress in every room, which also sort of elevates that struggle for area majority if everyone's trying to get at least one dress in each room. nothing gets completely neglected. And it's a smart element in the game design to do that. And then there's, of course, the fireworks, where if you plan ahead really well and you're able to get, one of those very expensive decorations at a time when no one else has them yet, you're going to get a huge amount of multiplied points at the end of the game. And just the whole combination going on here, from the production, the graphic design, the component quality, and just the gameplay itself. It's such a fun game. It's something that I don't think that I would get tired of playing for a very, very long time. And it's a great game in terms of having a lot of mechanics and kind of gameplay styles in heavier games while being a more medium game. So it's a great game to kind of introduce people to heavier game mechanics, but not in a game that's going to completely fry their brain the first time out. And again, it's a really fascinating theme, and you don't see too much of it out there. There's a million games out there where you're performing agriculture on a farm and doing kind of farm-related activities, or there are a lot of games out there where you're building buildings and going on quests and they're fantasy themed. But you don't see a ton of games themed around fashion, particularly historical fashion in the court of Louis XIV. I did mention before there's another very good game out there about making dresses called Pret-a-Porter, and I really like that game as well. I think this game is the better one. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not giving a score. This isn't a full review or anything like that. But I really, really like the game. And if I were to give it a score, it'd be a very, very high score. This game, it's a full recommend for me. And I would recommend it to anyone as long as it doesn't look too complicated for you and you like what you're seeing in terms of the board layout and the mechanics and the way they work. So if it's a game that looks good to you, I think, full speed ahead, check it out, give it a play if you can, but I'd recommend this game for most people. I think it's a great, great game that works on a lot of different levels. Also, Rococo comes with a bunch of little extras, so if you really do like the game, there are ways to kind of preserve the experience beyond just the initial play of the base game. So you've got a fairly good, robust solo mode, so you'll be able to play the game solo. There are also a few little mini expansions involved. There's ones called Fancy Dresses, and that will give you dresses that are a little more difficult to make. They require more components, but they have even bigger multipliers. So you'll want to create these dresses with the eye towards then moving them up towards the rooftop to score those endgame multipliers. And because these dresses are a little more difficult to make, they have more components, there are also some additional resources that come with this little mini expansion that give you more components in one tile. So you're going to be wanting to target those resources to help you build these dresses. And that's just a little extra thing you can throw in if the base game starts to get a little boring or predictable for you. There's also another mini expansion called Festivity Dresses, and there are 4 of those dresses. They are not allowed to be sold. So you can't build those dresses and then turn them in for money. So what makes them special is that they will score bonuses far beyond the normal bonuses. There are additional bonuses on these tiles that will trigger off of other elements in the game. So as these tiles come out on the board, you're going to say, okay, if I make that dress, that tile is going to score bonuses off of ornaments, the ornaments that I have around the board, or it's going to score bonuses off these colored dresses. So you'll be able to kind of plan ahead and try to do other things in the game that will empower those tiles even more and allow you to score more points at the end of the game. There's also a larger expansion called the Jewelry Box expansion, and that existed with the original version of Rococo, but it was a separate thing. You had to buy it as a separate expansion. It was sold separately. With this version, it comes with the game. I haven't played it yet, but it allows you to create jewelry that you then can put on your people in their dresses, kind of around the court. And it creates more mechanics and more ways to score points. And that's a great thing to throw in if you find that you're playing at, a 4 or 5 player count and people are kind of boxing each other in, and it's kind of hard to score points for certain things if everything's kind of, strangled. You put this expansion on the table, and it allows you more and different ways to score points And that way you can kind of spread the points around a little bit more, and it gives you more options, more things you can pursue. So you're not kind of deadlocked in as much. And then finally, there is an expert tailoring mini expansion, and that works specifically with the jewelry box expansion. And it sort of works like the festivity dresses did. So with the expert tailoring expansion, again, you cannot score those dresses for money. You can't use them to punch that oh shit button to get an influx of money, but they will score additional bonuses based off of components and mechanics that are present in that jewelry box expansion. All of these things together, these 3 mini expansions and the solo mode and the larger jewelry box expansion, will allow you to really extend the life of the game. If this is something that you love and you're playing it, once or twice a week, just kind of constantly, and eventually you kind of get tired of it, it becomes predictable, you can start to throw these elements in and it will really kind of extend the life of the game. Thank you very much for watching. Please, if it's your first time here, maybe consider subscribing, and it always helps to like the video as well. And if you want to be notified whenever I publish future videos, you can always hit the alarm bell.